beloved Ascension Pioneers, and welcome to this video on working with sacred energies, with ritual, and the power that we can emit through our own self when working with the realms of Ascension, Ascended Masters, and those of realms of illumination. So today I'm sitting in this very beautiful, as you can see, green mountain luscious surroundings. I've been doing a climb today. It's been very intense. I've also been finding some huge mountain crystals again. So at the end of the video I will show them a bit to you. There's just a few examples here, so they're keeping me company as I'm making this video. The presence of the white flame. So the first thing I want to recommend to you is this book, Edwin Courtenay, The Ascended Master's Book of Ritual and Prayer. So I've mentioned this book in my previous video, and if you haven't seen this, this is by the Lords and Ladies of Shambhala, and it's a very simple book. Any teachings of true Ascended Mastery is always really much flowing through simplicity. It's not complex, it's really supporting your ascension through the embodiment of the basic things that are important for us as humans. So I'm going to read you, before we go into our topic today, a bit from the background of the book, which is the questions and answers section. And there's a beautiful question that I think a lot of people are asking in this new age, which is, why should I pray to Ascended Masters or to angels and not directly to God? Why should I have anyone like angels, masters, between me and God? And again, you see, here is this typically stereotypical kind of like representation that there should be no one between you and God. It's almost like there's always still separation there with this level of thinking. So the Ascended Masters, actually, they've been through the journey, they've been through the path, they've been humans, they know the experience. Sometimes we wish to say, okay, my experience is very vertical, I wish to only connect with Source. And then we forget that the I amness isn't all that you're seeing, that Source is in every single thing, you know, including these beautiful mountain crystals. And I love this answer, so I really wanted to share it with all of you if you don't have this book yet. Ascended Masters are our brothers and sisters in light, those that have gone before us, human beings once like ourselves. They have become perfected beings through transcendence of limitation, and they are aware of their own divinity and are close to God. As intermediaries with the divine, they can utilize divine power that flows in accordance with God's will to aid us in a more empathic way. They are not alternatives for God or angels, but can be seen as a ladder whereby our feelings and needs may reach God more clearly, be understood and answered through their grace from the Creator itself. Because the thing is, we're still having a human experience, you know, whatever kind of nature we perceive of ourselves and what we look into as in our reality. The journey of self-mastery is always of that walking through the journey. It's about experience, and that's why when you think about Ascended Masters, you think the first aspect as being wisdom. So everything they've learned and experienced, and they have transcended, so they have liberated themselves, they have freed themselves up, but also they've gained the experience, so they can help those that are, you know, walking that same path in their own unique way in Ascension. Do the Masters need to be worshipped? The Masters are not beings to be worshipped, but friends, teachers, and guides to be worked with. And this also applies to when you work with other guides, such as many different guides that are right now assisting the planetary shift and your own personal shift, including myself. So it's not to be seen as someone above you, but someone who is your friend, your companion, who will really just encourage you to step deeper in your power of your I Am. They are our spiritual forefathers and ancestors who have transcended limitation before us and now look back to guide us. Because when you come at a certain level of illumination, you either start to expand from there on, and you always do, but your offering, your sacrifice will be of greater service. So when you have certain wisdom, you'll always be asked and invited to share it. And I've talked about this a lot in my mastery videos. So how do I draw the symbols correctly? There are some symbols here to each master, and I really encourage you, and we're going to talk about the power of ritual and sacredness in this video as well, because this is a part of the mastery path, that you start to think about the aspects of who you are as an individuality aspect of that source of all. So in this book, there's also some writings about this that, we're all one, but at the same time, we are unique. We do have that soul identity, and we are a unique being. And it's very good to know ourselves. That's what the teachers were saying. To know thyself is the source of all experience first. So each one of us will experience from within and then see things as reflected from the outside world to us. So when you think about how masters have been going through this, as they continue to refine their embodiment, and this is where we are now. Although it's been said and reported that most masters that existed on Earth prior to this time, they couldn't always withhold that seventh density soul frequency of your true beingness, of your original design in the flesh. So they have actually walked into that as they transcended their embodiment. But experiments always continue to refine themselves. So where we are now in the cycle is to uphold that level of frequency and beyond, and still having a certain form, still experience ourselves and experience life, the pleasures of life, the learning of how life forms can have a different creation experience to them as much as we evolve. So they actually share about how you draw these symbols in the air. So when you work with your own aspects, you start to get symbols of yourself. When I did the Aurea symbolism, when I got that for my own self, I got these, opposing V's, opposing each other. So it's almost like that perfection of the divine feminine and masculine, bridging the gap and really mastering duality. This is what I received. And when you work with your soul name and all these things, they're going to come to you as rites of passage. So in the previous video, I talked a bit about why is it important to not force things, that the grace of the divine will always bring you what you need. When you have a certain understanding, you stay with that understanding and you evolve within that understanding. You experience through it, or you transcend it and you get a new understanding. So this doesn't happen by you forcing it or by you saying, I want to have this knowledge. Even if you have tons of books of great divine wisdom in front of you, but your capacity of how your brain functions and how you're able to perceive things still couldn't really align with that material, it really wouldn't be nothing to you other than a pile of fat books there, lying right in front of you. So it's really important to take our journey of mastery not through comparison and steps, but going back to the basics, which is seeing everything as sacred. And this is what I'm going to focus this video on. So I will also want to give you an example towards the end. But why is it so important here? Because this book is the book of ritual. First, each master here, there's 13 connections to masters, shares their message, and they're really beautiful. So how I read the book is just open it to where it opens up, and this is where part of the message really comes from. And the second part is sharing a ritual that enhances your power. So what rituals are, what the sacredness within these rituals are, is when you connect your inner power. So what the laws of manifestations are teaching is basically in the understanding of self-mastery is that everything comes from within you first. So when you're doing a ritual or using certain ointments, candles, representations of something physical, you're actually just aligning your energy with that thing. So when you do those rituals, when you're guided on a certain alignment, or just when you feel intuitively inspired, you really enhance your power of your focus. So any sort of ritual is all about focus, and I talk a lot about focus because the white ray is also about focus. It's about, it has to do a lot with Serapis Bey, and his message here is really beautiful because he talks about angels, and he is one of the masters, the only master so far who has been connecting with the Seraphim frequency. And when I started to connect with this, I actually created this page, Serapina Light, and everything here really links together and it resonates, so it's beautiful and highly recommended. There's a lot of mastery material, I think, provided. There's a lot right now offered as information, but always be very discerning to what you receive, because the basic truths will be very simple, will be profound. The most profound wisdom will be very simple. It goes back to the core of the self. So how do we enhance our lives to be more sacred, more divine? So we're all divine, but our experiences of creation of life are not always divine. Sometimes our mind gets in the way, and projections and all those things. So here in this book, it's actually shared about, because it says here, in the back. Most of us would like our lives to change in some way, but don't know how and what to do about it. So this book contains very practical rituals that we can carry out, focusing the power of our inner divinity to set in motion the changes we would like to see. And so these masters and these messages here help us to find the way back. So back actually means within yourself, to what you already know, how you were created through that core essence of your soul. And in truth, everything is about the potency of your intent, becoming a realized, self-realized experience in this matter. And when we work with things to become more sacred, it's that our focus needs to be deepened within them. So it means that everything we do gets more sacredness. How do we say, wow, this is the divine experience, and this one was just created from my mind? So in truth, I teach a lot about that in my self-mastery courses, which you can also find on my page, Serapina Light. And it's about creating everything through spirit. So spirit life force flows through you, and it's not just an experience that your mind created or really wanted, you know. And when we do that, when we engage with life in such a way, we will see that we're going to start to refine our human experience. Because a lot of people think that Ascension is this upward moving process, and you know, you don't really need the body, you don't need physicality, so okay, why are we physical? Why are you here? Did you ever ask yourself this question? And when we start to understand this, we'll just feel how much things are simple, how much richness we can feel in just saying, okay, my morning ritual will be to drink green tea each morning. But you can drink it, and you can drink it in a rush, and it won't be the same. So it's all about how you do something, not what exactly you do. So ritual for you doesn't have to be candles, crystals, you know, all this New Age stuff. What it can be is just your own personal representation of what a certain thing means for you, a certain symbol, what it means for you. So when I engage in rituals, I don't even call them rituals. It's just a spontaneous creative flow of, for example, when I do soul art, and I use a certain light grid with certain placements, and I create an energy field of that essence, and when I do that, I'm aligning myself with it. So when you work with masters, you work with yourself as a part of a greater group collective of luminaries who, they don't just stay vertical, they also move into the horizontal. They understand the horizontal experience. And it is an important experience, otherwise it wouldn't exist. So it's all the supreme grace, life force of the supreme consciousness. So rituals can deepen our consciousness, they can deepen the experience. Let's say two people have a morning ritual of drinking tea, and one will be so deeply connected to their I am spark, while another will just be in a hurry and doing things and rushing and won't even notice. But in truth, what these two beings have in common is the sacredness of their divinity. It's just that the first being is really feeling and experiencing it, and the other not so much. So working with the sacredness of all life will really bring a different perspective into our lives, and we want our lives to be richer and fuller. And that's why we work with Ascended Masters, not in order to be devoted only to masters and to, you know, worship masters and to worship ritual, because ritual in itself has no meaning other than what comes through you when you do the ritual, when you consciously align with things that, you know, you're bringing your focus there. You know, when I do these light grids and I place them and I share them on my Instagram page, there's so much energy that moves into that grid, and I receive its exact placing of each particle of each stone. There's so much attention to detail there. So the experiences that we have within greater sacredness will create much richness, greater depth in your life, and depth will mean wisdom. Depth will bring wisdom, and the experience won't just stay there on the surface. So what I'm seeing, this is the example I want to share with you, in this New Age community, is that it's very fashionable now to either be vegan or to work with crystals or do something with crystals. And again, I shared my video on working with crystals. Do check that out. And I'm not saying this is bad, but a lot of times we as humans, we move into these extremes without returning back to what's truly natural, to what's really sacred, is most simple things. So let's say, again, it's about how you do it, not what you do. And then I notice these certain beings create tons of food, and it all has to look perfect, and it's almost like so much is there, but what's missing is that simplicity, it's that sacredness. You know, when I see a master sitting there on top of the mountain having their tea, it's just very simple, but what they're doing is they're connecting the core of their presence in such a beautiful way. They're not and training themselves with only the material, with bunch of things, with a lot of things, it's more about the essence of the content, not so much the number of that content. So quality instead of just quantity comes in mind here. And it really is, sometimes when you look at humans, something becomes very like modern, and everybody goes in that direction, and now everybody's doing this. And sacredness of being is knowing what is most sacred to you at this time. So even if you're a being who does a lot of things, I do a lot of things too. I can be very hyperactive, and yet there's certain things within me that I know that I need to prioritize. I need to come back to the root. I need to come back to the heart in order to not overwhelm myself, to not make it too much about quantity, but really do things through quality. And whatever kind of work I'm doing, and if it's personal services, whatever, I really feel that needs to be focused on that quality, because the quality of experience brings that sacredness, and you feel an amazing sense of, I bring a few crystals here, with me as my beautiful companions when I go take these trips. I don't take the whole mountain with me, that doesn't really add up to the whole experience. It doesn't have any meaning. So there's a lot more I can say here, and again, I wish to keep it simple, so that's all for today. And I want to share a bit with you of today's journey, so stay tuned for what I share next, and I'll see you in my next video update. Okay, my beloveds, as you know, I am climbing today, and I just wanted to show you some beautiful views. There in the back you can see the so-called Master Hill, and when you take a look around, there's this mountain pass. So there's a beautiful surprise here. Look, the white fairy, the white maiden. So she gave me a beautiful message of how these 3 mountains, I still have 1 or 2 to climb, how they interconnect, and they make actually a triangle. So there's this rock here that's almost like you sit on it and you ride it and you're looking directly at the white fairy. So why is she in the rocks is because Spirit always shows us things, so here in these mountains, that's why I'm called here as the embodiment of the white ray. The white fairies are ethereal beings who actually, they're the guardians of this space, of these Alps. So there's even a legend of this white fairy. So I know how they interlock and how this energy here, then the triangle in the middle of it, there's a vortex, and this is where this energy of the new is coming from. And it has a lot to do with understanding a bit about ley lines and sacred geometry, and it's too mechanical for me. So the thing is that I just asked her when I sat here on this mountain bench to give me a message, and that's what she said, that these 3 mounts, the big ones, are forming a triangle. So this one where I'm going today, I'm climbing these walls, as you can see. It's pretty brave, going alone. When you go to Italy, people don't go alone. So last time I went to climb there, they asked me, oh, you're going alone, how can you do that? Because obviously Italian women don't do that. So actually I'm pretty brave if you look at it from that perspective, but it's not about that. It's about feeling my purpose in these Alps, feeling the connection, and just holding her to show you if she also has any messages for you. Just put your eyes on her grace. Look at how graceful her face is. I mean, a sculptor couldn't do that. This is all natural. It's all in the mountains, and you can even find, if you're interested, if you're also guided to come here on this part of the Julian Alps and have a retreat with me, which I still don't know when it's coming, but it's coming for sure one day. This is one thing I know for sure. So if she gives you a message as well, and she has this beautiful grace, and it's just this area, this region calls for this serenity, and she's so sculpted. Look at her nose, her beautiful lips and eyes, and even has these long hair. If you look how the hair is falling down, there's this beautiful line, and she is the exact representation for me of why I'm here. So if you Google, if you go on YouTube, you write Julian Alps, and there's this short presentation. It's kind of touristic, but there's a part that shares this legend of the white fairy. and how she actually she connected with this man and the whole story. So it's very symbolic, it's very archetypal for the energy that's here, at least for me. So it's how spirit shows me. Now I'm off to climbing my route before it gets too late. I hope you enjoy this. It's not for those who have a bit of a vertigo, but I'm gonna show you anyway. Last time. And ending where we began. The day in the mountains has ended, slowly came to an end, and I'm going to show you some of the white mountain crystals I found today. Well, they're still dirty, so you can't really see their crystalline nature. This one's calcite, but basically they all are. So I want to show you some of the pretty specimens, like this one. This is a really pretty specimen with the crystals. They're like all over. So these mountain crystals are not the same as cave crystals. They're a bit different. And I've shared before in my mountain crystals video how they actually naturally fall off the rocks, and they're very pure. So today I had this whole batch, and again my backpack was getting pretty loaded, and there's this beautiful big piece here which has, yeah, it has crystals here all over this whole part, and the whole of it is like this. I also find this huge one, which is a very interesting shape. You know, it looks almost like a key. And here on this side, once again, you have the crystals forming. I don't know how well this camera zooms in. It's a really beautiful stone. It's very heavy, but I couldn't bypass it somehow. So yeah, it's a very interesting shape. Almost like it's actually like an angel wing, isn't it? Look, with these 3 layers. It is. It actually, on this side it's like a key, or it's actually like a face, you know? And then you turn it around and it's an angel. It's an angel wing. How beautiful is that? So I wanted to share these stones with you. If you're visited in my crystals, my mountain crystals that I so devotedly find, but basically they just find me in truth, so it's very simple. You can, these are like stones, like they remind me of the desert rose, so I really like to pick those. They're very rare, but in the Uling Alps you can find quite a few of those, you know, with these inclusions. So if you're interested in that, you can visit my crystal shop on my Serapina Light page and just decide whether you prefer the white stones or the IM stones. And let me know if you want to have a bigger piece, because bigger pieces are heavy, so you know we need to arrange that. So yeah, I hope these crystals are bringing you beautiful blessings from this gorgeous green, luscious, sacred mountain space, and I'll talk to you soon.